Let's go. Let's go.
Welcome everybody to another episode 20 of Hit Confirm. I'm one half of this dangerous combo, Casey, joined with my wonderful, glorious, awesome host, Coach.
Oh, I appreciate the praise, man. I don't deserve it, but I'll take it anyway.
I tried to add more. I tried to add more in there, but like my brain couldn't handle it. Too much coming at one time. How you been, man?
I've been good. I'm actually doing pretty good in life generally. Things are looking up, and I'm pretty excited about this episode for today.
Oh, same here, man. I'm excited because my knowledge is so limited on this topic. So I'm gonna try to be on that guide to try to ask everyone. I mean, try to ask the questions for like the people that are not really like knowledgeable on this topic as well. So I
I
guess we
think
got
that's
the
good.
right combination.
Yeah, I think that's good because like if you're somebody who's kind of like kind of the newbie coming in, not much knowledge. I'm kind of the casual who knows just enough to be dangerous. And then our guest for today, Tricky, of VFDC fame, the one and only Eileen Master or Master in Training, is going to join us today. So he's the one who's going to have all that knowledge, all that experience. So Tricky, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the people?
Sure, man. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. I appreciate that. Kind words, always. Um, yeah, so I'm Tricky. Also Tricky Eileen. Sometimes I'm called Motown Jedi or Tricky 9000K.
Hmm.
I'll tell you why that name came to be. And yeah, I love playing Eileen perfectly. She came in the Virtua 5 edition, which is when I got really more competitive in the series. And FS is the newest one, which is where I really got into it deep and I think got well enough, good enough at the game. And I'm hyped to talk about the Virtual Fighter and Virtual Fighter Cross esports or X esports. I don't know how we supposed to call it, but yeah, glad to be here.
Yeah, I saw that announcement too, and the first thing that came to my mind was, Virtual Fighter is making a comeback? Question mark.
Yeah, yeah. For those of you who don't know, just to put a little bit of context on it, Sega, after like a bunch of radio silence on this franchise, had this how can you say teaser trailer at Tokyo Game Show just recently, and the VF and even the general FTC just kind of lit up, and so there's a lot of possibilities. We don't know exactly what this is, but we can tell that it's injected a lot of energy into the community. So Tricky, you can tell us about that though.
Yeah, I'll go into that. So like, what's funny is that at least in the Western USA specifically, but the North America, we've kind of been having a resurgence of more playing since parsecs become a thing, and ever since basically February, where we've all been inside for a long time. Something about that made it so all the VF players we all start playing the game together again online. Like the VF online isn't that bad. It's actually pretty good considering how old it is, and even compared to most modern online games, it's actually really quite good on Xbox Live or PS3. So we just started playing together a lot, and then we found Parsec, and we also found the emulator that works for PS3, and now we can play on the computer on Parsec in even better online settings. So it's even better now. So we're doing that, right? So everybody's playing the game now. We got new players showing up who we've never known before. They've just been playing for like 6 months. I got one dude over here who just started a few months ago. His name's Blessy. He's in the UK. Man is running tournaments online with Sega Europe. Like,
That's crazy.
Yeah,
word.
yo. Yeah. So you just saying like
It,
the accessibility to the game just started opening up possibilities.
Yeah, and then we get this announcement. This is all before the announcement, right? And
Right.
then we get this announcement, and it says, "Yo, VF Esports," and we see Homestay, we see all these other like huge name, Japanese VFers, and you see these huge crowds. Cause Sega, you should look at one of the other videos and Blackstar and some of the other guys in the community. They know a lot more about the history of VF, but I'll give my brief bit on that, which is basically VF started that whole esports before it was esports. They ran their own events, they ran their own tournaments, and it was huge. So immediately, the first thought is this announcement is saying they're going to start doing that again for sure, and they're going to do it in Japan. Probably like 95% sure that's what's going to happen because they did say it's going to be in Japan first, whatever it is. So it's probably some kind of league, some kind of thing, Bob, and it might start with FS. Um, but and then at the end of the trailer or teaser, you see a new model of Akira. You see his back, and that's a new model. That's not like FS model. That's not like his, high res CGI model. That's a new Akira model.
You saying it didn't come from Pachinko, man? Let me stop. Let me stop. Let me stop.
yo, that Pachinko got some good storyline though. I really want to watch the story in that Pachinko game because it's where all the lore is in Pachinko. Um, but yeah, it's a new game. I think it's a new game. Now, everyone doesn't agree with me on this. And the reason why is because VFers, we have been burned by Sega so many times, so many times. We haven't heard anything for like a decade, basically, about the game. Nothing. We've heard like rumors sometimes that they started the game. Like supposedly they started twice. They tried to actually make the game twice, and then they canceled it 2 times because it wasn't meeting their internal like standard of quality or
Mm.
innovation or something. But they never told us that, and it's just rumors. It's probably true, but I don't know. All I know is that this new model to me says it's going to be a new Virtual Fighter. It's going to be a reboot. If we also take in context, so I don't know if y'all, I know you all on Twitter, right?
Right, right.
Yeah, all over Twitter.
So I'm sure you saw Ed Boon tweeted out way back when Virtual Fighter needs a reboot. Like he said that on Twitter specifically, and Harada has also many times said something along the lines of "We need Virtual Fighter back again."
Yeah, I've
And whenever
definitely seen
that,
those.
you remember that, right?
Yeah.
So I I think Ed Boon's take on rebooting the series is what I think the series is going to be doing. It's probably going to be a re-envisioning of the first Virtual Fighter tournament, essentially. Um, I hope. I'm afraid that means only the original cast. As an Eileen player, I can't abide by that. That,
Oh man, you're not gonna have your character?
bro, they can't do it to me. They can't. I need her.
No, slap
I,
on the chains and call yourself a Sarah main. You're in for life.
Once you get on Sarah, though, you can't get off that train. Sarah planes, they don't leave her ever.
Now I'm not too familiar with the characters. I know about three actually. Akira. I want to say. I don't know the old man's name.
Shun,
Shun,
Shundi.
Shundi, and Leon. I don't know
Yep.
about the old man and Leon because of Fudo.
Mmm. Fudo
And
versus Chibiata or Chibita.
I can't remember what tournament it was, but I remember Fudo. Like I think it was like a debut tournament for like a release of like a new version of the game, and I saw a video of Fudo just dominating with that character, and I was like, man, I want to play this game. And then I remember during that time looking it up. I didn't have access to it at the time. Wasn't there like a version of Virtual Fighter that didn't come out like in America and Japan like already had it or something like that?
Yeah, that was Final Showdown. That was the pre-release party for Virtual Fighter 5 Final Showdown in LA. I was at that event actually, and yeah, it was an exhibition match of Fudo versus Chibita, and it was before they even launched the game. But they took us all out. Sega USA at the time organized an event, and we all got to play it. A lot of us got to fight against Chibita or Fudo. I had the opportunity to fight Fudo. He rocked me super hard. I've luckily had more time to fight against him since then, and he still rocked me. I'd like to fight him again, like, and see how we do today. But 10 years ago or 7 years ago, he destroys me. It was rough, but that was a cool event. That was a really cool event.
I know at some point later, Sega comes out with the Sega Cup again, just like, and I know because they roped in Jay Wong to kind of promote it and stuff like that. So like there was kind of like that small resurgence from Sega themselves, like as far as like support comes, and I think a lot of people were excited about that. And people attended, and it just kind of fizzled out. But I know like Black Star went and he had a blast, and I know like from what I saw, just like a really good time.
Yeah, that's where I met like everybody, in the scene. When I went to the first Sega Cup in LA in 2013, and that was when I got to fight Fudo much longer sets, and I was thankful for him doing that and actually talking to me about how to play the game better. Him and Itazan, great people, just great folks, great players. But yeah, the problem with that is that they didn't, like, the Sega at the time didn't really tell us in the community whether they were going to do it again, whether it was a one and done. Like, there wasn't enough communication with the community about what Sega's plans were, and nobody else was doing like Sega Cups, or like Capcom Cup wasn't a thing yet. There was no Tekken, what's it called now? Uh,
Taking World Tour.
Second World Tour.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was no Tekken World Tour. There was none of that. It was just Sega was saying we're gonna do this thing, and you know we're not gonna tell you whether we're gonna do it the next year or not, because flying out to LA, you gotta save up for that. You gotta plan. So they didn't tell us about the second Sega Cup in America until like it was like maybe 2 months out. So a lot of us didn't go, and I think that might have hurt the like they might have done it a third time in the states, but because the second one didn't do as well as the first one, maybe they didn't think that there was like a demand. But it was
Yeah.
really a matter of like timing and like just letting us know, hey, we're gonna do this again. Plan for it.
Like I guess this is a whole nother stream topic, but yeah, like there's a long history of like just not even just Sega, just Japanese devs in general not having that communication, not being upfront. Like the DBZ World Tour, like a tournament on that tour being announced like a month before it happened, so people are like, huh, you know, I can't just get a plane ticket a month out. So,
Right. And then like and this is where the reason why a lot of the VF community aren't as excited about this particular announcement as I am in terms of it being a new game. It's why because of stuff like that, where Sega doesn't tell us what they're doing or say anything at all, or they start to do something, it looks like it might become something, but then it doesn't, or it falls apart, or they say, "Oh, well, you didn't come to the second thing, even though we didn't really tell you about it, and so it didn't do well, so we're not gonna do this anymore." You know.
yeah,
Uh, but yeah, some people think it's just going to be a reboot. I mean, a remastered version of Final Showdown for the new consoles, which wouldn't be bad. Um, the background of that teaser trailer, it was the intro video for Final Showdown. So I mean, I think it could be that. It could be a port with upgraded graphics. It could be a port and a new game. It's not. Again, we just don't know. Um,
yeah.
I
But
hope
you
they
just
tell
on
us.
you just kind of on the side of the optimistic side, because I know I've seen the
Yeah.
other side. You know, people like, you know what? Until that screen has a 6 on it, count me out. You know.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna call it six. I think they're just gonna call it Virtual Fighter.
Okay.
I think it's just gonna be VF. It's gonna probably be the first tournament, or they might just say the second tournament, because VF2 is kind of like the biggest. Like that's when they were really everyone knows VF2 cast. If we're Sega, if we're Lion and Shun was in there, Um, but I really hope Eileen makes it. Like, it's all I care about. They can do anything they want as long as she's in the game, and like they don't just so now the next thing's like mechanics, right? Like, what are they gonna do? What can they do?
So that's pretty interesting because like my next question was gonna be because I saw a tweet. I can't remember who it was, but somebody tweeted how Virtua Fighter doesn't have like your special moves and the long
Mhm.
combos and stuff like that. You just have whatever mechanics Virtua Fighter has. It's not like as deep, or I don't want to say as deep, but it's not as like flashy to the normal fighting game spectator to like catch their eye. So whenever whenever I saw Virtual Fighter growing up, that's kind of like kept me away from the game because I was a person who got into Street Fighter, right? But then as I started to play other fighting games and started just to get used to fighting games in general competitively, I started to see the charm in Virtual Fighter. And for me, like who doesn't play Virtual Fighter like that much or any almost non-existent, I feel like you will be able to explain it better. Like what is the exact charms that Virtual Fighter has different than like any other like fighting game, your Tekkens, your Soul Calibers, and from your 2D
Mhm.
fighters.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I got like a two-parter for that. So like one part is the visuals, is the aesthetic, and like Virtual Fighter is always supposed to be this like technical in terms of graphically, computer like programming wise, it's supposed to be a pinnacle of that time. It's supposed to be the best looking, best programmed, most fancy, whatever fancy thing there is at that moment in time. Like I mean not Tekken. VF5 looked like that when it came out when PS3 first came out. VF4 probably did at the time. I was less plugged in. I know VF3 did, and VF2 did, and VF1 certainly did. So there's like the technical component of it. That's I feel like as other games became more flashy in other ways, like you have like hit effects, you have really cool background, you have destructibles, you got multiple stages in DOA where you can like knock people from one stage to another. Tekken has breakable walls and you knock them to another stage now too, and like just the hit effects in Tekken, there's a lot of other stuff going on there. What VF has from a gameplay standpoint, I think that makes it special, is it has a really fast mix-up game. And and I think it's not like visually evident all the time, which is kind of a problem. I hope they figure out a way to deal with that in the next version. What I mean is, so like if you block a move, right, in Final Showdown, for instance, and you're blocking a move but you were crouching initially and you're standing up, we call it a fuzzy guard. Other games kind of have a technique like that too. You can tell that your opponent was ducking and then stood up just in time to block that made because of where their hands are when they block. Like the blocking animation is different. So it gives you information as the attacker to know, oh, okay, this guy was fuzzy guarding me because I see that the animation looks different. But that's super fast and it's really easy to miss. Uh, and like, but I'm glad they have some visual indicator that my opponent was doing this technique. Um, I would like and I hope that they're able to add other animation things, other visual indicators of what the opponent is doing, what the player is doing, other than hitting and blocking, but showing you maybe how they hit or how they blocked or what they were trying to do. Like in Final Showdown, they added backdash stagger, where if you're trying to backdash and someone uses a sidekick on you, you get staggered and you get a full combo. So you get punished super hard for backdashing. Even though backdashing is super powerful, so it's balanced. Like it's okay you get punished for that. There are ways to avoid it. But if you just do a backdash, you get backdash staggered, you're gonna eat a lot of damage. And I like mechanics like that. Um, Another one is when you evade. For instance, when you evade a move, if you do a full circular, which catches evades, it's going to be a counter hit. It's a visual indicator that this person who tried to evade got hit with a circular, and you get new properties because of that. I think VF needs more things like that, but in other areas, like multiple throw escapes or throw escape types. Um, there's this thing called like evade dash canceling, like other more esoteric technical things that are defensive that are really hard to see unless you know what they look like. And it's a charm. Like I like that about the game because you can kind of hide your hand with option selects. That VF Final Showdown is all about option selects and doing the right ones and combining them properly so that you can handle really strong offense at the same time while defending. Uh, what else is there? So the special thing is rock paper scissors. It's just rock paper scissors, really fast and constant.
And
That,
I was gonna say that the rock paper scissors thing is kind of like how we're fighting games are going to through now with its recent strategies of like devs have been using, where it's just like a lot of rock paper scissors in Dragon Ball, Street
mm-hmm.
Fighter. So I think now is actually like a perfect time for Virtual Fighter to make a comeback.
100% agree. 100% agree. That rock paper scissors is the hallmark of Virtual Fighter, and I play other games like not at the high level, but like I think I can safely say without making people too angry that Virtual Fighter probably has the fastest, like in terms of rock paper scissors choices per second. I I think it has the fastest rate of that, and I also think that's why people. This is like another point I wanted to say. They think VF is really hard. Like everyone says it's hard.
Oh man, I was actually gonna make that one of the questions because that is the from the outsider's point of view they go, oh man, this game's like calculus, and then when you say hard, there's the extra problem of what does hard mean? For some people that means
Yes.
like you got to put in like a bunch of inputs like you're playing Marvel 2. And so some people will go, okay, that's what VF2 is about. VF's about, I gotta, learn all these motions and all these button combinations.
Hmm.
When that in reality, in that regard, the game's not really that hard. It's actually fairly easy in that regard, except for certain things, right? Because it's a
Hmm.
3-button game. You punch and kick, or you press two buttons at the same time, and so it's pretty straightforward as far as like execution and what you're allowed to be effective with right out of the gate.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, it's all about like what are people considering hard? And I spent a long time thinking about like what is it what do people mean when they say it's hard? Because I used to play Street Fighter 4. I was trash. I couldn't do one frame links, and that was hard to me. Like that part, execution was hard for me. I still find execution hard in other games. VF's execution is super lenient and super easy once you understand it, right? You can't approach it like another game. You gotta. I think that's part of the problem is that people are used to games borrowing a lot of things from each other, like system wise. 2D fighters have a lot of similarities. Most like Namco style 3D fighters, like Soul Calibur and Tekken specifically, and even DOA to an extent, have a lot of things that are similar to each other. That makes sense. But Virtual Fighter is really unique in how it wants you to play it. And I think that's part of what people mean when they say it's hard. But even folks who do get past that hurdle still feel like it's hard. And I think what they mean is that they get overwhelmed with the mix up game, with the rock, paper, scissors choice, because of how fast it's happening. It's so fast. Like it doesn't maybe look it, but when you're playing it's like, dude, 5 seconds passed, and maybe 15 rock, paper, scissors choices have already been made.
Whew.
You're over
That
here
is a
thinking
lot.
on you're over here thinking about choice one, and choice five is in progress at the moment.
Yeah. So because of that, it allows you to do certain kinds of mix-ups, which are like, you can play with a overwhelming approach, which is how I like to play. It's why I like Eileen, where I'm just gonna overwhelm your like mental stack so that you cannot process and decide well, how am I going to handle this and that all at the same time. You can't. You're going to mess up. Everyone does.
See,
I think so.
that's like me coming in from into the fighting game community. Personally, I used to have that whole knock you down Oki thing and then just like run it and then just play my whole game. And as I was playing through like more games and have they been turning over the years, now I'm starting to appreciate the whole like that aspect of it, the interaction, the constantly telling you no, I'm in your head even if you have the option to like to choose. I'm like constantly slapping your hand from the jar of cookies. So I really like that, and that's making me more excited for Virtual Fighter, honestly.
Yeah, that's the core of the game right there. That's VF.
I think when I got into it, like, cause I got into it because Blackstar needed a PS3 copy for a final round, so he booted a copy of my PS3, and he's always been like the big fan of it, always the pushing it, and since we always go to his place and whatever, we're always playing games together. I just naturally started playing it, and like the first thing that kind of like overwhelmed me, like you said, is that it's fast. And the thing that like looking back at it, what made it fast is like there's no one overall. Well, I guess two things. There's not one overall controlling option. Like in 2D games, down back beats a lot of stuff, or chicken blocking beats a lot of stuff. But there's no this beats a lot of stuff in VF. You can't, and the other thing is you can't ever really take the opponent's agency from them. Like in games where you can put them in mix up, like here's your options, you guess, left, right, up, down, or whatever, and then if you guess right, it's whatever. If you guess wrong, I get my hit. And while there's mix ups like that in that game, as far as like knockdown stuff, but you can never just like put them in a strict box with a strict route they can choose. They always have like a reasonable options. Like there might be like a checkmate scenario, like if they're like getting up right in the corner near a stage, but that stuff's like really obscure, not what happens in the game. So it's like they always have an option to put on you, and there's no overwhelming option. So you always have to choose whether your opponent's really bad or really good. You always have to play around them, and I think that frustrates a lot of people as well.
Yeah. I think you're right. You're right. Like this, it can be mentally taxing to know even against opponents who, let's say that the skill gap between the two of you is like massive, right? Even against that kind of an opponent, you still have to like think. You still have to make choices and make choices around your opponent potentially not making choices. So that becomes its own like the no mix up essentially, which you'll see in like bit large skill gaps. You'll think someone's not doing anything, but they're really just doing the same thing on and over again, and that can become really potent later on in the game as you like get better. Um, yeah, I think you're right. There's no way to really tell someone stop doing this. You can't. That button doesn't exist. It's very frustrating. Tell you that. I still find that frustrating.
Yeah, because I mean, this is a natural, like, especially like if you come from other games, there's that natural tendency to like, if this player does not have a strong game plan, let me wrangle them in with this basic tactic. Like in Street Fighter, you learn how to anti-air, then you've beaten like 40% of the people who touch the game, right?
Yeah.
And people want stuff like that, but you can't really have stuff like that. Obviously, somebody's like really insane, you can block them and punish them, right? But if they mix up the options just a little bit, then you really got to think about how to move and play around them. So that I think that comes into a play a lot, and just like constant human interaction is taxing, just like you said. I agree.
Yeah, like and like so like there are options in VF that you can't that will beat most things. It's just that you don't see most players don't learn that until they've gotten like past that beginner phase. So there aren't like I'll say it here, but basically a quick mid attack, which in VF is almost always forward and punch together at the same time. I've just it's an elbow. It's not a glamorous attack. It doesn't look fancy, but if you want to just beat someone who like beat him down, just block their move and hit him with that move over and over. Might take a long time, but you're gonna beat him and you're gonna win consistently.
You can't put them layers on them, but you can just smack them enough times and just take the W.
Yeah. Like if you're looking, and then as you want to beat someone harder, then you can think, all right. So I got this mid elbow, right? Okay. So I know you're gonna hit me. I know every time I hit you with this elbow, you're gonna attack again, which means I have a frame trap for you. Basically, VF's all by frame traps. Well, now I want to do a move that's gonna actually maybe take off a quarter of your health. So I'm gonna do a bigger move because I know you're gonna hit a button. That's basically that's the way you get better at the game. You start making more of those kind of choices.
So very like micro oriented, right? But there's kind of the macro, I guess, element to it too, where it's like you want to look at their overall game plan, but you can't turn away from what they're doing constantly in a quick moment.
Never, never. And like there is space for like play styles. I mean, VF is also a very close range game, so typically you're almost always within hitting distance of your opponent. But there are times where you are in the quote unquote neutral, where no one can really hit each other. That happens, and that's when it plays a little bit more like Tekken, in that you're trying to whiff your opponent, you're trying to whiff punish your opponent. Um, and most moves in VF on whiff are super unsafe. Uh, so if you know your opponent's going to whiff a move in front of you, you can pretty reliably hit them for it. So the neutral in VF from distance tends to be like jockeying for position and just moving closer so that you're not in that position of, well, if I whiff, they're going to hit me and I don't want to be whiffing because I'm going to die.
Speaking of movement, this game has stages where you can fall off and lose, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, because I know in other games the movement where you can fall off stages, the movement is, I want to say, a little bit more, it's easier compared,
Hmm.
like, for Soul Calibur it's easy to move and you can fall off in that game. DOA, it's sort of easy to move and you can fall off, like, I guess you could call it, yeah, you can fall off in that game too, or get near the
Yeah,
edge of something
you don't get
and
ringed
take
out on
massive
that.
damage. Yeah, you don't
Yeah.
get ring out, but you take massive damage. And Tekken, you don't, you just the movement is kind of hard, and I hear a lot of people, some people don't get into Tekken because the movement is so strict. How is it for a virtual fighter?
Yeah. Well, so I'll say what most people tend to say when they talk about Virtua Fighter. I hear a lot of people say VF is stiff. Um, to me, it's not stiff. It's pretty fluid. Uh, I think VF to be fluid, uh, a lot like Tekken in terms of career and backdashing in a lot of ways. Like if you don't know about that tech, then it's going to feel pretty sluggish too, because you're not going to know how to backdash, move quickly. You're not going to know about how to sidewalk properly or how to sidestep into sidewalk. There are a lot of like little micro things you got to know in Tekken to really make the movement feel fluid, right? And VF's the same way. Um, you there's a you can cancel movement into other movement, and only certain movement can be canceled into other movements though, and there are certain limitations placed on how quickly you can cancel certain movements into other movements. So I think that's where people get stuck and think that the game's sluggish because they're trying to cancel the wrong things into the wrong things, so they get stuck and they can't move. um
And I also
one
think a lot of people try to see Virtual Fighter kind of like as other fighters just in general. They think like, it just off the bat they'll be able to move really quickly like a 2D fighter. But it's like you said earlier, Virtual Fighter is in its own realm of how, like, you got to take it totally different than how you take any fighting game, because it doesn't take nothing from any other fighting game. It's its own thing.
Exactly. Exactly. Other games have clearly taken from Virtua Fighter and then done their own little thing with it, which has made it its own thing. But when you come back to Virtua Fighter, you gotta come to Virtua Fighter, not try to play another game. Because you have a bad time. Otherwise, um, but yeah, they also added in Final Showdown and 5 this new movement type called offensive move, which I think was specifically to deal with the criticism of the game feeling like you can't move, where it basically lets you get like a quarter away, like a round of an opponent, if you're close to them. Sometimes you can get behind them, depending on like where you are. But that mechanic isn't, I think, all that well designed or implemented. They may not even keep it in the next one. Um, it feels like there's it was the start of a new idea, and it had to do with side turn because in Final Showdown they added a new state, which was when you're on your opponent's side, all your frames become different and everything changes from the side, which I thought was pretty cool. Super complicated also and kind of intimidating for newer players, but side turn state, I think it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool innovation.
It did take me a while to get used to that as well, because it's like, this thing that I can usually challenge, I can't challenge anymore because you're just like, what, 2 frames slower on all your buttons at that point as the side turney.
Three
I can't,
frames.
three
But
frames,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. And then, like, if you get counter hit by the side kick, you get crumpled in that state too, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so that was the kind of thing I had to get used to. And the other thing you mentioned, offensive moves, like maybe this is just my bias, right? But whenever I watch like arcade footage or any tournaments, I feel like the only place I see that is like a Sarah player or like a Vanessa player running Oki on a knockdown opponent to make sure they get the right wake up off of whether they're head first or leg first or everything. That's usually like the only place I ever see it. But you can tell me if I'm
hmm
wrong.
That's the place to do it. That's the most common place to do it because if someone tech rolls and they're on the ground, you'll follow them, so you'll stay close to them. And the other reason would be if you just want to reposition quickly when someone's laying on the ground. I'll do it often for ring positioning. Now I know when I knew I was going to do this, I asked my VF community members if there were certain like things they wanted me to make sure I talked about. So I have a tweet like thread of like things
Oh, go
people
ahead.
wanted
I would
me
love this.
to. So I'm just gonna like run through one of them and make sure I've talked about all of them. One of them is why VF is considered like a technical fighter. I think we
Mm.
did that already with the VF2, VF3 components and how pretty the games are supposed to be.
Yeah, yeah.
Another one is how VF as a regional phenomenon as opposed to a global or American one. Now, I think what this person's talking about here is this is Chanchai, and the VF series dominated like arcade in Japan for like a
Right.
decade, and like it was huge in Korea, but like apparently the arcade units there were a little more expensive and it was hard to export. And in the states, at least for me, I didn't see a lot of arcade cabinets either. In Final Showdown, you couldn't even bring cabinets here. Um, but in nowadays, we have people in Hong Kong, we got folks in Taiwan, Singapore, Australia, Spain, Italy, a lot of people in the UK actually, a lot of folks in the EU because East Coast and EU we have pretty good connections. We get to play each other pretty often using the regular old netcode. It's and then there are different styles of play in different parts of the world and even in different parts of the country. Where like in New York City crew, which is where I am, we have a people here for some reason tend to wait a lot, like on advantage. That's like our hallmark. I I don't wait because I don't believe in waiting,
You're
but
not gonna wait.
most
East Coast playing lame. I knew it.
Yo, what's the term they use in VF? Moral? You're not
moral
very
moral
moral.
play. No, I don't believe in that. If I think I could smack you in the teeth, I'm gonna smack you in the teeth, boy.
Oh man.
Which which is actually the proper way to handle someone who's waiting a lot when it's their turn. It means you should be more aggressive actually against them, as opposed to less aggressive, because you can steal their turn. Why not steal their turn when they're saying, "Hey, here it is, take it."
Hey,
All
you're
right,
right.
I'll take it.
He was like, I can hear all the sounds of your victims as you said that. I'll take it.
Yeah, man. I think Eileen also lends herself to that playstyle. But I'm sure a lot of other characters have that. the characters are so unique in this game, man. Like they are, they allow. I mean, within a character, you can play many different playstyles, of course, right? But then across characters, they're all so different from each other.
Now,
Uh,
does that play in the role of like, do they have like very, very, very lopsided matchups in this game in Virtua
super,
Fighter?
super good question. Um, if you compared to other fighting games, no, they don't. But big but being that this is the only one I play like competitive at like a decent level. It does certain matchups are a lot harder than others, and certain matchups are a much more of an uphill battle than others. Uh, like for instance, Eileen versus heavyweights is hard because Eileen takes a lot of damage because she's so light. Another thing about this game, weight classes, game's balanced based off of how much damage you can take as opposed to how much life you have. And so it kind of puts a skill cap on being able to take advantage of someone being light. If you're good and you know your weight specific combos, then lighter characters become less scary. And heavier characters become, well, just generally that you can't do as much damage to them overall. But Eileen specifically can't do much damage to heavyweight characters, but she just wrecks midweights and everybody else. Um, so yeah,
Uh,
I mean, yeah, I think she does. Anyway,
So as a Guilty Gear player, former Guilty Gear player, I can kind of like relate to that. It's just like once you understand like the weight of the character, you should do fine, do much better in the matchup.
hmm
So
Except when you can't knock old Taka down. You out there running around. He like, what's this?
Hidaka is such a strange, exception because certain characters like do a lot more damage to him than they do to other characters because of his he can't tech roll perfect. He can't do a perfect tech roll, which is like on frame one. So you can do a lot of off the ground combos on him that you can't do on anybody else.
oh wow.
So if you don't know that, he's really hard to fight. But if you do know that, Taka's in a bad way. Taka's a big sumo wrestler fighter for folks who might not know who that is, but I'm sure you might have seen him on promotional art and such whatnot. But I think what helps the VF balance from having that lopsided problem as much as other fighters um, tend to have, and not to say, VF has tiers and they're very real. Like, don't let anyone tell you VF doesn't have tiers. That's a lie. It does. uh, now, yeah, I say that because my character is at the bottom of that tier, even though in America she's probably a little higher. But at the highest level, Eileen is not very good. And there are reasons for it. There are very clear reasons why. And as I get better, I understand more and more why she is not considered strong compared to other characters. But generally, the system of the game allows you to work around your character's weaknesses. And I think that's how they balance the game. I think that's like a core component of how they're balancing Virtual Fighter.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Taking the system mechanics a lot into account a lot more than like so that and then pretty much building up the characters from there, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. And then certain characters can take advantage of the system mechanics better than others, or can circumvent the mechanics better than others.
Yeah, you got old Kira with his guard break. Like, I just want to
God,
block,
oh my
but I
God,
gotta
you
die.
knew, you knew that's what I was thinking of. Oh my God, Akira's guard break is so annoying. It's so fast.
It's a funny concept because, like, if you literally don't block, then he just gets like a slap on the wrist and he's at disadvantage. But if you block,
Wait,
he gets to
what?
rock your world.
Wow.
Yeah, they went ham on Akira in the latest version of the game. They went ham on Akira and Jackie. They made them both super strong. Um, I think 'cause they wanted to. I think they actually made him strong on purpose. I don't think it's a mistake. But Akira, he has this guard break. He has a couple of guard breaks, and guard breaks from side turn, which become even more powerful after from side turn. They become like super powerful on side turn, where he just gets a lot of combo damage on you. And so, all right, so don't block, right? Well, problem with that is he has really damaging, safe moves that will combo you. Also, so when you're in disadvantage, you have to make a terrifying choice between blocking and potentially getting guard broke, or a barring and getting counter hit for lots of damage, or evading, thinking that they're going to attack, and eating not as damaging a throw, but enough damage that you don't want to get hit by it too much. Um, I feel like, a criticism I have of this particular version of the game is that that guard break, the way he has it, it just changes the game so much. I- in a fun way for Akira. Like, I wish everyone had opportunity to use that kind of mechanic. I mean, in their own way. Um, Maybe in the next version they'll do that, because a lot of characters do have guard break, but it's just not as good as Akira's.
Well, you make me want to play Akira as soon as I touch this game now. You're selling them to me, man. Don't do that. Don't do that, because I was interested in Leon. Now I'm like, who's Leon?
Well, Leon's good too. Leon's also really good. He's up there. He has pretty dangerous mix-ups, and he has a guard breaks pretty good also.
Now another character that every time I tune into, like, a big tournament for this game, I always see the big wrestling guy. Is he top tier, or is he like good or strong, or
He's like mid. He's mid tier, strong mid tier.
okay?
He's what we call a Nitaku monster, where basically Nitaku, for folks who may not know, um, it's basically means you're in a two force choice position, where you're either going to have to block, and maybe get thrown, or attack and, you know beat the block. But if you attack when it's not your turn, you can get counter hit and eat a lot of damage. Wolf is really good at that position, and that's what he wants to. He wants to constantly create that situation, because he'll win the game if he does that more.
So if I'm playing, so since I'm new, so I'm going against Akira, and I know he has these guard breaks and all this dangerous stuff up close. So the game I play is try to space him out more?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now that's given. So Akira is also kind of funny. Like, I hate Akira because of what he can do to me, but I also respect Akira players, because in order to extract the enraging components of Akira, you have to be good at the game. Like, so like, if you're playing other beginners, you don't really have to worry about Akira's nonsense, because they're just not going to be doing it, because it's not easy to do.
Gotcha.
And by the time you are dealing with Akiras who can do that stuff, you'll be better at the game, and you'll be able to space them out.
Be able to deal with it better. Okay.
Now I
Yeah.
have a reason to be mad. It's like one thing I noticed about Akira, like when I first turned the game on, it's like he has like he's not very string heavy.
hmm
He doesn't have a lot of circular stuff as well that a lot of characters will have. So it's like you have to be, like you said, you have to have a lot of knowledge to make something like that work. It's hard to see it working for just the average Joe who just turns the game. I was like, how do I stop these people from evading me with these
Yeah.
weak old throws? Like, you have to like really know the character, the timings and stuff to like just really make him, like you said, anger inducing. And like I feel like that's kind of how can I put this? Like, there's kind of a contrast between that and the other games where, the guy on the box, the guy in the karate suit, he's usually the guy you pick to start with because he'll
Yeah, the
help you
easy
understand it.
character.
Yeah, but Akira's the kind of the opposite, where it's like, well, if you really want to be effective as a character, you better get learning.
Yeah, yeah. Like, there's some things he can do at the base level that are, relatively effective, but he doesn't get full circulars, which does hurt him to a degree. I'm glad he doesn't have that, or he'd be completely broken and busted. I hope they don't give it to him in the next version. Please don't. Please don't, Sega, please. But yeah, he's good and hard to be good with, but he's not a hard character to play.
Okay.
Like you can pick him up in this version. In older versions, this is not true. He was hard to play in other ones before, actually. But in this one, he's relatively easy to play and pick up. Um, but he's really hard to play at the highest level. There's like this part in the skill ramp where you're like, oh man, I know I have all these cool tools, but I don't know when to use them, or I don't know how to use them best. And I'm just getting rocked because I'm not using them at the right time. And once that clicks, once you figure out, oh, I just gotta do it here, and you can recognize that moment's happening and you can do it with Akira, then he starts to feel oppressive. And that's when he's really quite scary. But it's hard to get there.
Now, do you think they will ever say, so hypothetically speaking, if they release like a new Virtual Fighter, do you think they'll add a character where they pretty much help you learn the game? Kind of like how Tekken has, like, I want to say two characters where they're like the easiest characters in the game. I forgot the name of them, but they're like very easy to play and apply their gameplay. And do you think that they will go that route for Virtual Fighter, or they're gonna keep it within their realm?
Well, I would say that VF has those characters
Oh,
already. Like, well, Akira probably not him because he's just well, everyone's unique, right? But he's really unique in a way. um, I would say like Go is one of those kind of characters where he's like Dragunov in Tekken, or like Leo to a degree. I think Leo's the right name in Tekken. Um, who else probably fits in that category?
Would you say Jean?
Jump, yeah, you could start with him and do pretty well at the beginning, and he scales well with skill. You may not learn all the fundamentals of so it's another complicated answer question or topic is what are fundamentals in Virtual Fighter, right?
that is good.
We're getting ahead of ourselves, I see.
Cause well, that's good because Tekken, usually when people think of fundamentals or whenever like you hear somebody learning something new, they're like, well, movement is very, important in Tekken. So
Mhm.
what's important for Virtual Fighter?
Yeah. Uh, you're gonna get different answers from different people. M-
Ah,
My
I like
my.
that.
So like my answer is also because of how I learn. I think it's important to know when it's your turn, and the way you learn that is by knowing your frames. Now, I'm a frame monster, so I'm going to say frames are important. I'm sure folks who are more field based, they can just tell that they're negative. Like they don't need to read a sheet that says you're -5 here. They just know instinctively I'm negative here. Okay, I'm going to block. That's super important, and you have to know that, or you're just going to get rocked by anybody who knows anything about the game. And that's the biggest mistake I think new players make, in that they don't know when it's not their turn. Um, Now, the other coin of that is I think it's still fundamental, but it's a little more complicated. Are strings. So Virtual Fighter has strings. A lot of other games have strings too. Like Tekken has strings. DOA has strings, and they're like canned moves that if you press the next button, your opponent can't press a button,
He's
which
doing
means
strings.
yeah. So like that is another thing you have to know. I think fundamentally, like as an attacker, you have to know your strings and know that you can use your strings as fake turns. You can steal fake turns by threatening to do the next part of your string and then not. I think that's a fundamental component of Virtual Fighter that only certain characters like Jean or Jackie really emphasize if you want to play a character like that.
Oh, so they'll work out for new players, like for the beginning style, if they want to kind of, I guess, mash their way through.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No, shout out to Black Star and the 6 PK from Sarah. We know you listening.
I'm so scared of that move. Oh man. Yeah, strings are so it's like knowing your turn, knowing strings. Some people might say movement also. Um, knowing how to move is relatively important. Um, but you can get by. Like that's the thing with virtual fighters' fundamental concepts. You can get by with not knowing like certain fundamentals and just leaning into what you already are good at,
That's big.
right?
That's very big.
Why you say that? What makes you say that?
Because because in so, because in Street Fighter and other games, you can get, but it's rare. Like you have to be like a Valle, right, where he doesn't
Mhm.
know all the frames, right? But he still plays the game. He played the game for like over 10 years. So to go for a new player to not like know the fundamentals for a game, especially a 3D fighter, it's kind of I don't know. It's kind of complicated or I see it as kind of complicated for a newer player. But that's just me already playing other fighting games. I
Mhm.
think it doesn't matter as much for a player that's new to who just I guess that genre or like virtual fighter. If they just want to mash, they'll find their way. And I think that's what you're more alluding to is like you'll find your way to your own fundamental style. And
Right.
I think that's the charm that I'm starting to see in virtual fighter is you're finding your way to your own fundamental style and you're expressing through that way. Because I was like, how do you express yourself in virtual fighter? And I remember watching videos and I was like, I really don't get it. I don't understand. But after like having this talk with you, now I'm understanding. I'm like, okay, now I see how people express themselves. So
Yeah. Yeah. It really comes down to um like I use myself as an example. Like I was or still am a string based fighter. Now my character is also string based. So that kind of lends me to not needing to care as much about a lot of the more fundamental quote unquote like, elbow block, 2P, low punch block, jab, throw, um knowing I get a counter hit and then throwing somebody or doing another single move. Like that whole part of the game, I was able to relatively ignore or be pretty bad at for a long time and get to a pretty decent level. But when I fought against players who were able to recognize that weakness in my play, they were able to hone in on that and say, "Oh, you think you can ignore this? No, no, no. I'm gonna punish you right now for not playing. I'm gonna force you to play the game you don't want to play." Which made me learn. All right, well, how can I? They want me to play this way, but I don't want to. So I'm gonna look for all the ways that I can like circumvent them and punish them for trying to punish me for not playing the way they want me to play. And that became the mix up. And now I can play fundamental style. Like I can play that elbow jab 2P. I'm still that's still not my strongest position. And I'm working on that now still. But yeah, I was saying pretty good at the game, and I'm not nearly as good at that as some other players who um have way more time than I do at the game too. Or who are stronger than me, who do that, but have weaknesses in other areas, right? Like,
Right.
I think that's where the expression comes in. And where do you focus? Where do you continue to focus your energy?
That's what's up. Well, a wise man once said, "If you want to break the rules, you got to know them first."
ooh,
That's right.
mm.
So, like, I think a lot of that. Go ahead if you're gonna say something. Don't let me hold you up.
No, no, go ahead, man.
Oh, you go
Uh,
ahead.
okay, well, I guess one of the things like that ties all this together for me is that the game has a lot of consistency in how it applies its rules. So like you don't have to know frames, but for the most part in the game, with like few exceptions, if you block something, you know that they're generally negative. You know that they might have a
Mhm.
string that's coming, but and I think another general thing in the game. Like the further down the string you go, the worse your advantage generally gets. Again, with certain
Hmm.
exceptions. So you like I don't know the numbers behind this, but I see what they're doing, and I know there's a general consistency on how it's applied, and I think that helps a lot too.
Yeah, that's the system. I think that's part of the balancing of the system across characters, where they keep the uniqueness while making it relatively uniform so that you don't have to memorize like everything, but if you do, you'll be even stronger, right?
Right.
And I think that helps people get into the game. Help me get into the game. Just learning the general rule.
So I'm gonna ask you this: do you have anything else on your Twitter list you wanted to hit? Because I know we just kind of just kind of went hard on that topic there.
Oh, word. Well, because what was the next one? Was one of them was misconceptions about the series, like the ones that popped up when the teaser was posted. Um,
Like
that was
people were
from
saying the game had like I'm going to Virtua Fighter because they got real neutral, not realizing that you're just gonna be in somebody's face 95% of the time.
Yeah, well, that is to me that is neutral, but I know that's not neutral to most people. There's that or that like when you're up close to somebody but no one's touching each other yet, and you're
Yeah,
kind of I know that's strictly probably not considered neutral either.
I mean, it depends on the game, right?
Yeah, but that's like the neutral to me is in Virtual Fighter is that exchange of like I attacked you, now you attacked, and I evaded you, but I'm still safe, so I'm gonna attack you now, and we're like evading. It's like a kung fu movie, and like no one's landing a hit, and like
uh,
that's neutral. That's VF neutral right there. The kung fu film with no one hitting each other.
yeah, I think people over exaggerate when it comes to neutral. They're like, I have to be in a position far, far away from my opponent on the other side of the planet throwing a fireball. And it's like that doesn't always have to be neutral.
Yeah. VF neutral is totally like no one's landing a hit, and or like you're landing like a low hit, and in Virtual Fighter generally a low hit is going to be negative on block, especially if it's fast. So no one's landing a substantial hit on one another, and that's the neutral in Virtual Fighter. You're still connected to each other, um, and that I think is part of what might make the game difficult is that even in neutral, you're up in someone's face, and if you mess up in neutral, sure it's probably true in other games too. You're gonna eat a lot of damage, right? You're gonna
Right.
get popped, and that's why you lose neutral. what were some other misconceptions that were flying around when that trailer came out?
Um, I'm trying to think. Like a lot of people, I guess they're gonna put like the fair and honest moniker on it, even though like it has a skill gap on it. It's like it's what I feel like is when people get into the game, they're not. It's not going to be what they expect when they use other games as a basis. Like the neutral thing where it's like I'm spacing out my opponent, I'm being smarter than them. It's going to be somebody's in your face and they're hitting buttons, and you're gonna think they're like a crazed animal. Even if they're stronger than you, and it's not gonna. A lot of people are not gonna be able to see the difference between somebody like applying those hits, looking at your habits, as opposed to just swinging. And I feel like like 'cause once you understand the game, like all the stuff you've been saying this whole time, like why they're pressing that button, right? Because they're at advantage or they think you're gonna throw or anything like that. But from you
Mm-hmm.
as getting in there, it just feels like, man, why is this guy just swinging buttons at me? This game isn't honest, neutral, whatever crap people want to
Yeah,
you put on it, and it's like you just like you said, you got to evaluate it as its own game and look at what's really happening.
yeah, yeah. And I feel like VF has some real nonsense stuff in it, right? Like ring outs can be infuriating. There's this clip where I rung somebody out on a half wall stage at the beginning of the round, which almost never happens, and it was probably just dumb luck that it happened. But like that's that wasn't fair or honest. It was just you know it was just random a little bit. And that's in the game because ring outs are 100% KOs. They're 100% combos. Okay, KO, one hit. Wall combos. Some of the newer wall combos that are still being developed because that it's wall hits are so complicated in Virtual Fighter that people are still developing new tech using the wall, and some of the stuff there is just dirty, just so dirty. It's like, man, why is that in the game? What were they thinking? Like what? Why? Uh, but those are exceptional cases, right?
Right.
Generally, if something's being done to you in Virtual Fighter, you can play around it, and you can generally punish someone for doing it. You just gotta know what it is, and that's probably what, like why that fair and honest moniker is put on the game. And I feel like that's generally fair. Like I feel like most things that happen to me are fair,
Right.
even when I'm mad.
That's especially when it matters, right?
Yeah, I'm mad. I'm like, damn it! Why didn't I do this? Ah, now I'm dead. Oh man, that's that's the salt, salt that fuels me.
Word.
The last thing on the list was someone said talk about the VF5 instruction manual.
Okay, I don't know anything about this. I'm about to sit back and listen.
So this is a short one because so basically all the VF manuals is where you learn about the characters, you learn about who they are as people, and and then it's also where you learn about what happened in the last tournament. So VF has a fairly deep and intricate lore that we have all learned in a way similar to Dark Souls, where you have to look at character win poses, character phrases while they're fighting, character intro poses, and then the little like 150 word bio each character gets at the beginning of a game, in the instruction manual. And that's when you learn like the story of the game. Also, apparently the VF2 instruction manual for the Saturn had like the full move list in like every languages, which was really quite neat.
Wow, that's
That's
crazy.
that is pretty cool.
Yeah. So that's the instruction manual bit essentially. It's pretty short, but like I guess nowadays with move lists being in the actual game, that's like less of a thing. I
Yeah,
haven't looked
most
at the
games don't come
manual.
with instructions manuals these days.
Last time
No.
I
like
saw an
it's,
instruction manual was like the virtual PS3, like for old
oh
PS2
yeah,
games,
yeah, yeah. They put
PS1 game.
they put them on. Yeah, like I think if they come with like modern games, it's like some kind of luxury or gimmick now, not just a
Yeah.
thing that happens.
Yeah, man. So that was the last one on the thread here that I haven't already talked about. Let's see. I guess like the last one is like a controversial topic, even within the BF community. Is this idea of like is throw escaping, multiple throw escapes, which is like a notorious technique from the older game. And in this current version, you have lazy throw escapes, which you can just hold guard and throw, and just hold it, and you can break a throw. But in older games, you had to tap it. You couldn't hold it. And you could and then if you tapped it at the right time, I think it was within 10 frames of your opponent trying to throw you, then you'd break the throw. Uh, I think another reason why the game got the rep of being super hard is also because of this multiple throw escape stuff.
Understandable.
Uh, right? Like, doesn't that sound hard just on paper?
So I know, like in the VF4 trial, for not Final Tune, but Evolution, there's like a literal trial. It's like you input all three of these throws, and it successfully escaped 5 times in a row. And it took me forever to do it.
Me too. So I don't think they're gonna go back to multiple throw escapes. Um, I don't see that happening. I think they're gonna keep going the route of like streamlining the weighted rock paper scissors game that they're doing.
Okay. Actually, that actually brought up one more thing I wanted to bring up. So one of the things I've been seeing, I guess I say one more thing. It's kind of two things that are somewhat related. Modern games have comeback mechanics and guest characters, and I've seen like a lot of the diehard VF characters, like
Oh
VF
crap.
players, like don't bring that anywhere near us. We
Yeah.
don't want any Yakuza characters in our games, and we don't want any meters or any rage arts or anything like that. So
Mhm.
drop those thoughts, man.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna get taken out and shot by somebody for saying these things. That's all right. So VF already has a meter. Sean, hello. He has a drink meter.
You
Like
right.
Sean is in the game and he has a meter. It's just and he also has EX moves because if he uses certain moves, he loses drinks just like an EX bar.
Oh
So
man.
it's not unheard of for Virtual Fire to do that. Um, that said, do I want every character to have a meter? No. I think it's cool for Shun to have a meter. Maybe one other character might get a meter like thing, but it needs to make sense. Like part of the essence of Virtual Fighter is its realism. Granted, you're jumping really high. Just ignore that for a second. Um, it's supposed to be a martial arts simulator. It's supposed to feel like you're watching a kung fu flick from like the late 70s, like mid 80s. That's what it's supposed to be. And I don't think adding a super meter would do that. I don't think adding a rage bar would do that. N- n- do I think we need supers? Like I don't know if some special circumstances is made, and then you get to use a special kind of move that's like invincible on whatever hit. I really hope not, because we have crushes already. Crushes are cool, and that already is invincible, quote unquote, to certain types of attacks. And that's already there. Um, I consider combos, especially in Final Showdown, because of how long they can be. That's like a cinematic when you're being hit by a cinematic that you can be involved in as a defender because you might get dropped combos. Throws are super cinematic in the game, and they I think fulfill the feature of like the spectacle of like a super.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't think they're gonna do it. If they do, I trust they'll do it well. I just don't know how they would do it.
Okay, that makes sense. I think that's the biggest fear on that is just like you don't want to take away from that. I can always do something about this part of the game. It's like
Yeah.
when something's invincible and they rev it up. For the most part, I gotta block this.
Yeah.
I can't dance around it, play around it, and so they don't want to put that aspect of the game. So that's understandable because it's never been what the game's about for the most part.
Yeah, like rage arts, maybe like like rage moves. What's it called? Like rage drive. Not I don't see them doing anything like that. But rage arts or something like that, maybe. But I don't know how they would control like how often you can use it without just giving you a random number, which is basically just a bar.
Yeah, it's just a bar you can't see.
Yeah, just a bar you can't see exactly.
Yeah, I think my personal opinion is that all that stuff's not really needed. I think you can still have a type of game that as it is, and all those modern techniques of putting flashy stuff in there are not needed. You can make a solid game. You just present it well, give it character, and you can make up for a lot of that. That's how I see it.
Yeah, I don't think it needs supers or well, guest characters. I don't think it needs guest characters, but I do think in Final Showdown already has this. The character customization is so varied, especially like Go. You
Hmm.
can make Go look like a Yakuza character if you want. So you don't we don't need like Yakuza characters in the game. They're already in
Yeah.
the game. They're there.
And like if they make a new game, you can literally just put in the stuff from those games in there. You don't put Axel Stone in there, but put all of his outfits in there. So I can
It,
put Jackie in his Axel Stone outfit or something like right.
exactly. Exactly. Which is kind of how they've been doing it. So just keep doing it that way. But if they were to put a new character in the game that was like from another game, like who would you want?
Um, Blaze Fielding from Streets of Rage.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I mean, it might be a little
Streets of Rage,
supernatural.
holy. He
It
went
might.
way back.
Well, I mean, well, they just had a new
That's
game
true.
come out, and that's a
Yeah.
old classic. If they did it, I would want to do like how they did like Street Fighter and Final Fight. It's like these universes are kind of in tandem.
Mm.
That,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not really for against characters in general for the most part. But if they did do it, I would like to see it like that because I know people like want to see like Rio from Shenmue and stuff like that.
Yeah, see, they gave Rio Akira's outfit. I mean, Akira has a Rio outfit.
Yeah, he does, doesn't he?
Yeah, because that's who he was supposed to be anyway. It was supposed to be Akira game. Then it became its own thing. So, yeah, I don't see guest characters happening,
I
but
agree.
I could see a DOA character maybe making it in. I could see
Okay,
that.
that's possible. I think the better question for me would be like, what fighting style would you want to see in the game? I think that's a much more interesting discussion, personally.
That's a hard answer. That's a hard question, bro.
Do they have any Muay Thai?
Kinda
Yeah,
like Brad and but Brad, Brad Burns.
yeah. I think it's like generally kickboxing, but he has like the Muay Thai elements and stuff like that in it.
Yeah, they used to have um what was it? Vanessa in VF4 was considered Muay Thai, but it kind of was. It kind of wasn't. I feel like a proper boxer would be cool.
Okay.
Like, but they'd have to. I don't know how they would handle not having any kicks or having very few kicks, because that would because the way the game's built, you have counters that are for certain kinds of types of attacks. So if a character doesn't have access to like knees or kicks, then they're gonna be at a super disadvantage. So they'd have to figure out a way to build around that limitation. Mm,
What about you, Casey? What fighting style do you want to see in a 3D game?
Um, I guess I love Muay Thai, so that's one. Jiu-Jitsu, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. You rarely see that in any fighting game, mainly because it's kind of hard, I think, hard to implement. It's mostly like very technical on the ground, moving around a lot. Closest thing I see with that is maybe like, I don't know, King when he goes into some of his throws, but even though that's not really Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So I would like to see something like that, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, a character that implements that.
yeah, I
What?
can see that.
Yeah, in terms of like adding like maybe specials or something, I wouldn't like to see that. I would more so, like you said earlier, like advance on the stuff that they were always already good at and kind of like help players make it more identifiable. You know, maybe give
Right.
like a nice flash when you counter something or something. So that's what I would like to see.
That's what's up, man. Well, man, I ain't got nothing else, man. Tricky, you got any closing thoughts for the people? Anything you want to say?
Uh, yeah. Well, I haven't simped enough for Eileen, so I will just end with simping for Eileen. She's the best character in the game. Everyone should play her. She's the best, and she also has core circle forward motions, core circle back motions, and all the buttons. So she's like basically a Street Fighter character. I mean, sure,
Don't
whatever.
don't fall for it, Casey. Don't play
I was thinking, right when he said that, I was like,
her.
another character he's trying to sell me, huh? I see.
I always try to sell Eileen to everybody who will listen. Um, I think she's super fun. But just play the game. We're playing on Parsec a lot lately, and I'm sure we're gonna keep doing that. We're planning national tournament on Parsec sometime in the future,
Oh, that's
near
what's up.
future. So yeah, yeah, hook up, sign up for that if you're interested. We're just trying to do more of that.
Definitely look forward to that because I want to see some virtual fighter. I haven't seen any like virtual fighter like tournaments in like quite some time.
Oh man, yo, follow NYC Furby, bro. He's been
Okay.
he's been streaming. Well, he's been streaming, and I've been commentating with Harpooner on his streams for like Japanese virtual fire tournaments, um, which is dope. Like, dude, we can watch
Oh, okay.
Japanese
That's
tournaments.
that's crazy.
Yeah, I'm glad he's been doing it because he's been giving a platform to a lot of games. Like he's streaming Sam Show 3. So
Yeah,
like
I've seen
I
him stream those like the older KOFs and stuff like that, but I didn't know he was doing virtual fighter, so I'm definitely going to tune in on that.
Yeah, tomorrow morning, Saturday morning. Well, this will already be up, but yeah, tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, 8 a.m. is going to be a 2v2 tournament run by Tetsuko Yamada and Homesei Akira in Japan, and that's gonna be dope. Look forward to watching that.
that's what's up. So Casey, any closing thoughts?
Uh, Stay safe, everyone. Um, Continue to be healthy. I'm all about that mental game. So other than just playing video games, so keep your mental right, and then keep on keeping on. That's
All right.
about it.
That's what's up. Well, I'll just say this: if you get a chance to play the game, I know it's still on 360, PS3, but give it a shot. And there's also the Parsec community and Yakuza. But anytime you chance to get to play the game and try to understand it, do so. Enlighten yourself. It may not be your favorite thing, or it might be your favorite thing. So give it an honest
One
shot.
One last thing, I just want to give a shout out to the virtual fighter community because as soon as like we announced that we were gonna have you on, Tricky, they came out, man,
Oh
and
yeah, they did.
I really like that. So
Yeah,
really
yo,
appreciate.
there are a ton of folks that like would love to talk to you about like the historical stuff of the game and like the historical parts of the community. Of there's a long storied history of Western VF and even Japanese VF that some of us folks know more about.
Yep, yep. Man, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because yeah, that was like the most engagement we gotten from like posting that we were just gonna do a show. Like, so thank you guys for being excited about it, and I hope you'll enjoy this episode. I know you'll enjoy this episode. So I got nothing
Oh,
else to say. So
yeah.
thank you, Tricky, for coming on and speaking your mind. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, bro. I love it. I love it. I know I reached out a while ago. I was like, yo, you ever want to talk about BF? I got you, bro. So I'm glad you hit me up on it. Anytime.
That's what's up. That's what's up. So I'm gonna go ahead and conclude this. Again, thanks for tuning in, and hope you stick around. Peace out.
Peace.
Juice.